check my turn signals, four-way flashers, both sides. They should be either clear or amber facing the front, clean, securely attached, not cracked or broken, and they should work. High and low beam headlights, both sides. Clean, securely attached, not cracked or broken, and they should work. Now I'm going to open the hood. I'm going to start out by checking my exhaust. I'm going to look at it as far under the cab as I can see it. Make sure that all the clamps and brackets are in place, none are missing or broken, all the nuts and bolts are there and they're tight. Doesn't touch any air, electrical, or fuel lines, and there's no indication that it's leaking. Then I'm going to check my alternator and the belt. On the alternator, nuts and bolts are in place and tight where it attaches to the bracket. All my electrical connections are clean and tight. No bare wires showing any place. Belt's not cut, cracked, split, no chunks are missing. No more than about a quarter to a half-inch give. Then I'm going to check my water pump. Just making sure that all the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight and that it's not leaking. Let's go to the other side. Once I get over here, first thing I'm going to do is an overall view of the side of the engine, looking for any leaks, oil, fuel, coolant, power steering fluid. Shouldn't be any. Then I'm going to check my coolant level, make sure it's full. I'm going to check all my electrical wiring on this side. Make sure all the connections are clean and tight, no bare wires showing any place. Then I'm going to check my coolant hoses on the rubber ones, not cut, split, rubbing on anything, not ballooned out to the point where they could explode. Clamps tight on both ends, no leaks. Metal ones, not cracked, broken, not rubbing on anything, connections tight on both ends, no leaks. Then I'm going to check my power steering pump, which is gear driven. All the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight and it's not leaking. Check my air compressor. Make sure all the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. It's not leaking and it's also gear driven. Then I'm going to check my main air line as far back underneath the truck as I can see it. Not cut, cracked, frayed, rubbing on anything. Connections tight on both ends. No leaks. Check my oil level. Make sure it's full. Then I'm going to check my frame. It's not cracked. It's not broken. It hadn't been welded on anywhere. All required nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. Then I'm going to check my suspension, spring hanger, spring, U-bolt, shock, and shackle. Spring hanger's not cracked, broken, hadn't been welded. All the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. My springs, they're properly in line. None are missing or broken. U-bolt is not cracked or broken. Nut should be tied on the bottom. No indication that it's been moved. My shock, nut and bolts in place and tight top and bottom. Bushings are good so it can't move. It's not bent, it's not broken, it doesn't leak. My shackle's not cracked, broken, it hadn't been welded on, and all the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. Then I'm going to check my steering system. So steering column's not bent, it's not broken, no unnecessary give in the U-joint. Power steering fluid level's full. Power steering hoses, not cut, cracked, split, rubbing on anything, connections tight on both ends, no leaks. Power steering gearbox, all the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight, and it's not leaking. And I've got my steering linkage. Fitment arm, drag link, upper and lower steering arm, and the tie rod. My fitment arm's not cracked, it's not broken, nut and bolts in place and tight where it attaches to the gearbox. All the rest of my linkage is put together with a crown nut and a cotter key. My drag link's not cracked, bent, or broke. Upper and lower steering arm's not cracked, bent, or broke. Tie rod's not cracked, bent, or broke. Then I want to check the connections on my steering system. To do that, get a hold of the steering column and twist. When I do, all the parts should wiggle. Right. Then I'm going to check my brake system. Start out with my air line, not cut, cracked, split, rubbing on anything, connections tight on both ends, no leaks. In the brake chamber itself, nut and bolts in place and tight where it attaches to the bracket. It's not bent, no unnecessary holes, no leaks. Check my push rod, it's not bent or broken. It's attached to my slack adjuster with the pin and the cotter key. I'd use my slack adjuster to check and adjust my brakes. To check them, I'd pull it. If it moved more than an inch, I'd have to get them adjusted. Then I'm going to check my brake shoes and the brake drum. Brake shoes, not cracked, broken, no pieces are missing, at least a 1/4 inch thick, not soaked with oil or grease. Drum, not cracked or broken, and it shouldn't be soaked with oil or grease. Check the inside sidewall of my tire, no cracks, splits, cuts, no tread separation. Top of the tire, no uneven wear, at least 4/32 inch tread depth. Outside, no cracks, splits, cuts, no tread separation. Then I'm going to check my rim, make sure it's not bent, it's not broken. Nothing to cause the tire to lose its seal or that rim to come apart. It hadn't been welded on. All 10 lug nuts are in place. None are missing or broken. No rust streaks coming from around them, which could indicate that they were loose. Check my valve stem. It's not bent, it's not broke. It's got a cap. I'd use a gauge to check my air pressure. Check my oil hub oiler, make sure it's full and it's not leaking. I'm going to check my door hinge. It's not cracked, it's not broken, and it's properly in line. Check my mirror bracket where it attaches to the truck. All the screws, nuts, bolts are in place and are tight. Check where the mirror is attached to the bracket. Once again, all the screws, nuts, bolts are in place and are tight. Driver's door glass should be clean, not cracked or broken. Check my door latch. Holds it closed. Allows it to open. While I got it open, I'm going to check my door seal. Make sure it's all in one piece. It's not going to hang down to where it can keep my door from closing. Then, I'm going to check my fuel tank strap. Not cracked, not broken. Nuts and bolts in place and tight where it attaches to the frame. Then I'm going to look at the tank itself. It's not bent. There's no holes in it. It's not leaking. Check the seal on my fuel cap. Make sure that it's not leaking. I'd open it up, make sure I got enough fuel in the truck. Gonna check my steps where they attach to their bracket. Nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. Nothing on it to cause me to fall. Check my side door, make sure it's closed so it can't come open as I go down the road. Side turn signal, 4-way flasher, amber, clean, not cracked or broken, securely attached, and it should work. Here behind the cab, I'm going to check my DOT reflectors, make sure they're there, they're not peeling off, they're not fading out. Then I'm going to check my exhaust. Once again, I want to look at it as far underneath the cab as I can see it. Make sure all the clamps and brackets are in place, none are missing or broken, all the nuts and bolts are there and are tight. It doesn't touch any air, electrical, or fuel lines, and there's no indication that it's leaking. Then, I'm going to check my catwalk. Clamps are in place and tight, so it can't fly off as I go down the road. Nothing on it to make me fall. I'm going to check my frame and the cross member. Frame's not cracked, broken, hadn't been welded on. All required nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. Cross member's not cracked, it's not broken, it hadn't been welded. Nuts and bolts are in place and tight where it attaches to the frame. Going to check my drive shaft. It's not bent, it's not broken, nothing twisted up around it. Then I'm going to check where my air and electrical lines attach to the tractor. On my air lines, they're not cut, cracked, split, connections are tight, no leaks. My electrical's plugged all the way in, safety catches in place to hold it. Then I'm going to trace my air and electrical lines to the front of the trailer. Air lines not cut, cracked, not rubbing on anything, got enough slack for turns, no leaks. Electrical, no bare wires showing any place, it's not rubbing on anything, got enough slack in it for turns. Front of my trailer, I'm going to check my glad hands, make sure they're properly seated. I check my rubber grommet, make sure it's not too flat, no big chunks are missing, no leaks. Electrical's plugged all the way in, safety catch is in place to hold it. This tractor has an air release sliding fifth wheel. So I'd check my air line, make sure it's not cut, cracked, rubbing on anything, connections tight on both ends, no leaks. Then I'm going to look at the front of my trailer, the bulkhead, It's not bulged out, nothing sticking through it. Should be strong enough to stop the forward momentum of any freight I transport. I've got enough space between the back of the tractor and the front of the trailer. Not going to hit when I turn it. I'm going to do a quick look down the side of the trailer for any type of cosmetic damage. Not bulged out, nothing sticking through it. DOT reflective tape is in place, not peeling off, not fading out all the way to the back. Check my clearance light. It should be amber, clean, securely attached, not cracked or broken. I've got enough space between the top of my tire and the bottom of the trailer. I'm not going to eat my tires off on a rough road. Then I'm going to check my fifth wheel frame where it attaches to the frame of the tractor. It's not cracked, it's not broken, it hadn't been welded, all the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. Then I'm going to check my fifth wheel slide frame where it attaches to the fifth wheel frame. It's not cracked, it's not broken, it hadn't been welded on, all the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. My fifth wheel keeper pin is shot into that slide frame so nothing can move. Then I'm going to check my fifth wheel platform. All the pieces are there, nothing's missing or broken. Pivot pin is in place, held with a pin and cotter key. Release levers all the way in the lock position. No space between the upper and lower fifth wheel, and my fifth wheel's got enough grease. Check my skid plate and apron. Make sure they're both welded up securely to the frame of the trailer. Doesn't hang down, no big holes in it. It's not going to interfere with me doing a drop and hook or making turns. Then, I'm going to look up inside the fifth wheel. Want to make sure that the locking mechanism is around the shank of the kingpin, and the kingpin itself isn't damaged. It's not cracked, it's not broken, it doesn't lean. Then I'm going to start out checking my air lines that go to that brake chamber. Not cut, cracked, split, rubbing on anything, connections tight on both ends, no leaks. Then I check the brake chamber itself. Nuts and bolts in place and tight where it attaches to the bracket. It's not bent, no unnecessary holes in it, no leaks. Then, I'm going to check my push rod. It's not bent, it's not broken, it's attached to that slack adjuster with a pin and cotter key. I'd use the slack adjuster to check and adjust my brakes. To check them, I'd pull it. If it moved more than an inch, I'd have to get it adjusted. Then I'm going to check my torque arm. It's not bent, it's not broken. Nuts and bolts are in place and tight on both ends. Bushing should be good so it can't move around. I'm going to check the rear end, the bell housing, make sure it's not leaking. Here at the back of my tractor, check my turn signals, four-way flashers, and brake lights. Should be red, clean, securely attached, not cracked or broken, and they should work. I've got enough space between the back of the tractor and my landing gear. Not going to hit when I turn. Then I'm going to check my airbags. Not cut, cracked, split, not dry rotted, no leaks. Nuts and bolts are in place top and bottom where it attaches to the bracket. Then I'm going to check the shock. Nuts and bolts are in place and tight top and bottom. Bushing should be good so it can't move around. It's not bent, it's not broken, it doesn't leak. Then I'm going to check my U-bolt. It's not cracked or broken. That should be tight on the bottom, no indication that it's been moving around. Then I'm going to check my brake shoes and the brake drum. Shoes aren't cracked, broken, no pieces missing, at least a 1/4 inch thick, not soaked with oil or grease. Drum's not cracked or broken, and it's not soaked with oil or grease. Because I don't have oil on either one, I know my axle seal isn't leaking. Check the inside sidewall of this tire. No cuts, cracks, splits, no tread separation. Then I'm going to check my mud flap bracket. It's not bent, it's not broken. Nuts and bolts are in place and tight where it attaches to the tractor frame. DOT reflective tape is in place. Then I'm going to look at my mud flap where it attaches to the bracket. Nuts and bolts are in place and tight. Mud flap's not ripped, it's not torn, doesn't touch the ground, doesn't rub my tires. I'm going to look at the top of each tire. Make sure I don't have any uneven wear and at least 2 32 inch tread depth. Look in between them, make sure the rims are butted up tight against each other, tires don't touch, and there's nothing stuck in between. Outside sidewall, no cracks, splits, cuts, bulges, no tread separation. Then I'm going to look at my rim. It's not bent, it's not broken, nothing to cause the tire to lose its seal or the rim to come apart. Hadn't been welded on. All 10 lug nuts are in place, none are missing or broken. No rust streaks coming from around them to indicate they could be loose. Find both valve stems. Make sure they're not bent, they're not broken. They should both have caps, and I'd check the inflation on both tires. Gonna check this spring hanger. It's not cracked, it's not broken, it hadn't been welded. All the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. My springs, none are missing or broken, and they're properly in line. I'm going to start checking my air and electrical lines all the way to the back of the the trailer. Make sure they're up and secure so they can't hang on anything, and there's no leaks. I'm also going to check the cross members and the floor. Cross members, none are missing or broken, securely attached to the floor and the frame of the trailer. Floor, no holes. My landing gear, all the pieces are there, nothing's missing or broken. All the nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. Landing gear is rolled all the way up, nothing on the feet. I can fly off as I go down the road. Crank handle secured in its bracket. As I come down the side of the trailer, I'd continue to check cross members, floor, air, and electrical lines. Once I get here, I'm going to check side marker light, reflector, turn signal, four-way flasher. All three should be amber, not cracked, not broken, securely attached, and the lights should work. I'm going to check my tandem slide release handle. Make sure it's in the lock position. This one's held in place by a pin. Then I'm going to look to make sure that my keeper pins are shot into the slide frame so nothing can move. The slide frame itself's not cracked, it's not broken, it hadn't been welded on. Spring hanger, not cracked, it's not broken, it hadn't been welded on. My torque arm, not cracked, not broken, nuts and bolts are in place and are tight, bushing's good so it can't move. I'm going to check my springs, make sure that none are missing or broken, and they're properly in line. Then I'm going to check that U-bolt, make sure it's not cracked or broken, nuts should be tight on the bottom, no indication that it's moving. I'm going to check my air lines that go to my brake chambers. Not cut, cracked, split, rubbing on anything, connections tight on both ends, no leaks. Then I check my brake chamber. Nuts and bolts are in place and tight where it attaches to the bracket. It's not bent, no unnecessary holes, no leaks. Check my push rod. It's not bent, it's not broken. It's attached to my slack adjuster with a pin and cotter key. I'd use the slack adjuster to check and adjust my brakes. To check it, I'd pull it. If it moved more than an inch, I'd have to get them adjusted. I'm going to check my brake shoes and the brake drum. Shoes should be at least 1/4 inch thick, not cracked or broken, no pieces missing, not soaked with oil or grease. Drum, not cracked or broken, not soaked with oil or grease. Before I start working my way out, continue to check the last of my cross members, the floor, and my electrical line to the back of the trailer. Gonna check the inside sidewall of this tire, no cracks, splits, cuts, no tread separation. Check my mud flap bracket. It's not cracked or broken, it's welded to the frame of the trailer. Check where the mud flap attaches to the bracket. Nuts and bolts are in place and are tight. Mud flap's not ripped, it's not torn, doesn't touch the ground. Check the top of both tires. No uneven wear, at least 2 32 inch tread depth. Look in between them. Check the sidewalls, no cracks, splits, cuts, bulges, no tread separation. Tires themselves, the rims are butted up tight against each other. Tires don't touch, nothing's stuck in between them. Outside sidewall, no cracks, splits, cuts, no tread separation. Check my rim, it's not bent, it's not broken, nothing to cause the tire to lose its seal or the rim to come apart. Hadn't been welded on. All 10 lug nuts are in place. None are missing or broken. No rust streaks coming from around them to indicate that they could be loose. Find both valve stems. Make sure they're not bent, they're not broken. They should both have caps. Check the inflation on both tires. Check my hub oiler, make sure it's full and it's not leaking. Rear side marker light and reflector should both be red, clean, securely attached, not cracked or broken, and the light should work. First thing I'm going to do is check my doors. Look at my hinges. They're not cracked, they're not broken. Welded to the frame of the trailer. Nuts and bolts in place and tight where it attaches to the door. Doors aren't bulged out, nothing sticking through them. They are securely closed, locked, latched. Check my turn signals, four-way flashers, brake lights, both sides. Red, clean, securely attached, not cracked or broken, and they should work. Check my tag light, make sure it's not cracked or broken, it's securely attached, and it should work. Check my DOT bumper. Nuts and bolts are in place and are tight where it attaches to the frame of the trailer. All the pieces are in place, nothing's missing or broken. Check my DOT reflective tape. It's not peeling off, it's not fading out. Check my identification lights. Red, clean, securely attached, not cracked or broken, and they should work. Now I'm ready to do my end cap. Adjusted so I can see. All right. First thing I'm going to do is a safe start. I'm going to make sure it's in neutral. Brakes are set. Clutch to the floor. Turn the key on. All my warning lights came on, went right back off. ABS light came on, it went right back off. Don't put your foot on my goddamn dash. Y'all can delete that later.
I can do it.
Alright. Now, first thing I'm going to do is check my mirrors. Make sure they're clean, not cracked or broken. Both sides, they're adjusted properly so that I can see. Then I'm going to check my windshield. It's not cracked or broken. There's nothing on it that will keep me from being able to see out. And it's clean. Then, I'm going to check my gauges. Oil pressure gauge is working. It's showing about 45 pounds of pressure. Coolant temperature gauge is working. It's showing about 130 degrees. Tach works, it responded to the accelerator. Voltmeter showing about 13.6. Fuel gauge is working, it's showing about 1/8 over 3/4 of a tank. Both of my air supply gauges are working. They're both trying to show 125 pounds. Then I'm going to check my indicator lights. So, left signal works, right signal works, four-way flashers work. Turn on my headlights. High beam indicator light works. Then I'm going to check the heater defroster. Defroster's blowing. And so is the heater. Gonna check my horns. City horn works. Air horn works. Now I'm gonna find my emergency equipment. Spare electrical fuses. Fire extinguisher. Reflective triangles. Now I'm gonna check my brakes. First thing I want to do is make sure that my air pressure is up to normal. I'm gonna kill the engine. Turn the key switch back to the on position. Then I'm going to release all my brakes and wait for my air pressure to stabilize. Alright. Now, I'm going to apply 90 pounds of pressure or more to my brake pedal, hold it for at least 1 minute. At the end of that minute, I should not lose more than 4 pounds of air pressure. When you step on your brake pedal, You will get a little loss. That doesn't count. Once you got that brake fully applied and everything's not moving, that's when you start your time. Alright, everything's stable. Minute and I didn't lose nothing. Alright, now I'm going to pump my brakes until my low air warning light comes on. This should happen before my air pressure falls below 60. It's on. My lowest one showing about 70 pounds pressure. Now I'm going to continue to pump my brake until both brake valves are popped out. They both have to be out before my air falls below 20. There's one. There's the other one. And they're both out, right about 20 pounds of pressure. Now I'm going to restart my engine, idle the truck between 1,000 to 1,200 RPMs, wait for the slowest of my air gauges to reach 85, then I'll time that one up to 100, and it shouldn't take longer than 45 seconds to get there. It's not ripped, it's not torn, securely attached to the side of the truck. Clamp works, and it's securely attached to the seat. I'll put my truck into a forward gear, release only the tractor brake, gently pull against the trailer to make sure the brakes will hold. And they did. Then I'm going to apply the tractor, release the trailer, gently pull against my tractor brakes, and they hold. I'm not going to do the 5 mile an hour check. I would release all my brakes, get the truck moving forward approximately 5 miles an hour, release the steering wheel, shove the clutch and brake to the floor. When I do, no pulling left or right, the steering wheel shouldn't try to turn, the truck should stop in a straight line. Now I'm done with my inspection.